All right, welcome back to another episode of Two Fans, 12 Rings, where sometimes we get together for great tailgates, Michigan versus Texas. Sometimes we have to be enemies. But I'm Jeff. Brad, how's it going?
It's going good, man. I didn't do a whole lot of losing this weekend. Didn't do really anything I didn't want to do. It's just been fun.
Yeah.
I've had the last 4 weekends off of work. This was the last one. What a ride it was. And now we're just back to the real world. But it sure is nice to turn on my TV and be able to throw on replays of football games or watch football, talk about football. It's actually happening. It's just a great time. It's always a fun time of year, man. It's the best.
Yeah, I had one of the best football weekends I've had in my life this weekend. Just top to bottom, um, top tier. And not always because it went my way. There were times where it didn't go my way, and we'll talk about that. Between you can back up to Thursday. We'll talk about the game, but NFL kickoff was a great game. Friday night, I go to the local high school game, watch that. It's a great game. Come home, we finish watching Packers Eagles. It's a great game. Saturday, we wake up early, tailgate with some of my best friends, you included. We had such a great time. We'll talk about that game later. And then the following day, I'm driving down to Cincinnati. It's early in the morning. Start to get a little teary-eyed because I'm thinking to myself, if there's anything in life that I want, it's for my son to like football even a quarter as much as I do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it was very cool that he's hype to see his favorite player / his favorite team. We're going to our first game together. It was very exciting for me. I think it was for him too. Just a great weekend. Just a great weekend. So, Michigan, Texas. So, I'm not gonna lie, you were a little modest on the pod.
Yeah.
But in person, you were confident. Right before kickoff, you were talking your game.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, I did not think it would look like that. Very impressive. Texas was as advertised. Very deep, very physical, very fast, very everything. Just everything. I thought the thing that was the most impressive thing they did is they made our defense, which is arguably the best in the entire country, look pedestrian. So kudos to them. I still don't think that Michigan's defense is bad. I still think it's elite, and that just is a testament to how good Texas was. It did show the flaws of losing 10 of 11 starters on offense. That was very apparent. Colston Loveland was great, minus one tough play. I'm sure he'd wish he could have it back. Not that play cost us the game, but yeah, Texas was really good. And I said this to you as the day was kind of winding down. They remind me of 2023 Michigan, a team that had just come off a Final Four loss, brings a lot back, and they're ready to go. They are ready to go. And just a purely dominant performance. And it made me start to reconsider how I view Michigan this year. But at the same time, I had to take a step back and say, that's one of the three best teams in the country. That's one of the three best teams in the country. I need to stop thinking that Michigan can't compete with other teams just because one of the top three teams just bullied us around. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I mean, just Texas, what Sark's been doing. Everyone talks about the recruiting at Texas, the amount of money they have, especially as NIL starts to take a bigger toll on college football. And they've just been waiting for a coach to grab the reins of this program and guide it correctly. And Steve Sarkisian's done that. He's built an SEC team, or he's been building one since he got there, a powerhouse with the recruiting. I believe only Alabama and Georgia over the past 4 years have a better net recruiting than Texas. But when it comes to just kind of the mismatch, you can talk about the offseason, the preparation during the week, the matchups, what our defense can do, this and that. it's a sad reality where in football sometimes it simply can just boil down to, do you have a quarterback? Because if you don't, at some points you're just going to be handicapped. And in a lot of ways, when I was watching, it's different to see it be Texas, the team that'll bully a team. But sometimes it just reminded me of Michigan, kind of what they are without JJ McCarthy. Like when they had, the different quarterbacks leading up, it was a lot of, the defense has to do everything. Let's just muster up enough and we can win. And then when JJ came in, you guys were a powerhouse for 3 years of football. And sometimes it can just boil down to the quarterback. I don't think many people would disagree that Texas came in with maybe three quarterbacks that would start for Michigan, and Trey Owens, Arch Manning, and Quinn Ewers. So when you take that's kind of where I handicapped it. It was I love what Sark did in the game. He basically said, we have so many receivers, we're going to avoid Will Johnson. We're going to play East and West football. And when Graham and Grant need to go out for a rest, we're going to lean on the backups of the defensive line and just push them down the field. I think there was a statistic that in the first half, Texas had 45 plays, and I think 34 of them were in Michigan territory. So it was just kind of one-sided the whole game. Texas allows their first touchdown on the season with less than 4 minutes to go. We'll see Texas tested again in October. I think our next three games are UTSA, Louisiana Monroe, and then Mississippi State, a bye week, and then Oklahoma, Georgia back-to-back, and that's when it'll happen again. But before the season, I was growing in confidence on Texas. Then I was like, they're going to beat Colorado State, but I wouldn't take them minus 31.5, because I've watched in the last few years in these games, 52 zip. I also saw the lack of quarterback play for Michigan against Fresno. And yeah, there was only one person, I think it was on Thursday night, I was at volleyball in my Texas gear, and, everyone, loves to give the horns down and everyone loves to talk crap, and there's especially Michigan fans in the area. And one guy caught me late at night. I'm beers deep, volleyball, it's been raining. He's like, what do you think the actual score is going to be? I was like, you guys are crazy, 31-10. We're going to destroy you guys. And when I said that, it took me till Sunday to realize, oh my gosh, I was actually pretty close on that prediction. But it was once I said that out loud, it was like from then on, it was just chest puffed out. I'm not going to tiptoe into this game. We're a top team in the country, and I thought we were going to show it. And then obviously when you're around a bunch of Michigan fans, it gets a little fun. But also J-Mag, shout out. He got some Texas stuff and came along to the tailgate as well. And he's just in my ear. Dude, there's no way we're putting our accounts on FanDuel on Texas -7.5. There's no way they don't crush them. Like, objectively look at the game. Quit thinking about it as a Texas fan. And I was like, dude, they've won 16 straight games. They still have a top 5 defense in college football. Like, we're at the big house. Like, let's not make this a. And then Quinn Ewers, the boys, they put it together. So, yeah, I mean, Michigan had an incredible year last year. This clearly looks to me more like a rebuild than a reload. How far away, who knows? But you can't lose a head coach, a strength and conditioning coordinator that really matters. You had to replace offensive and defensive head or coordinator, over 10 plus starters, a lot of them being the soul of your team. But yeah, like you said, it seems like a lot of people have put Georgia, Ohio State, and Texas in kind of a tier of its own. We'll see about Ole Miss, Bama, Tennessee, Penn State, Oregon, with USC now, kind of Utah. Forget anybody I'm missing, but it's a long season. But the more I see a lot of these teams play, it's like that 12-team playoff is going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. It is going to be fun. And, you enlightened me to this. I was not aware of this. I was totally under the impression that we were going to run it back next year in Austin, and that's not the case. We're going to have to wait 2 years?
There will be 2 years with Ohio State, and then 2027 is when they play again.
Yeah, so I look forward to getting their revenge then. Hopefully Michigan has found their quarterback and their guy, and they're back to competing for national championships after a short hiatus. So 2 seconds here. I just had you there still?
Yeah, I'm here with you.
Okay.
I saw your light flash, but your audio never went out. Everything was
good.
Everything.
Someone was calling me. All right. Anything else on Michigan, Texas?
No, it was just a lot of fun. Just one last thing, I posted about it. You do what you want. I understand that my wait for Texas to be great wasn't as long as some teams who you've been a fan since you were 8. They didn't do it. But this whole what a time to be a Texas fan, Brad. I left Michigan 3 years before they were national champions. You could argue it was the worst time ever to leave Michigan. I left them long ago. Texas was 5-7 the first year I watched. I don't buy it. You're not going to steal my joy with it. Cheer for Georgia when we play them. Cheer for Oklahoma when we play them. Don't hate them that much. Do whatever you got to do. But just publicly, you can miss me with the bandwagon nonsense.
I know you're not preaching to me in this.
No.
I'm going to come to your defense because I've seen a little bit of this, and it was too long to type, and I'm glad you kind of brought it up. I've known Brad for quite a while now, okay? And we've been potting together strong since 2020. When Brad has a favorite team, he's obnoxious about it. I've never, since I've known you to be obnoxious about Michigan, ever. That was just not your thing. You love your Steelers. You're going to take them to the to the grave. Same with Manchester United. Crazy, obviously, these last couple of years, your love for Dallas and more for baseball and hockey than ever before since I've known you. That's grown. And Michigan never made the list. And as soon as you took on Texas and you were pretty public with that, it wasn't just Texas football. It's been Texas everything. And it's been nonstop Texas for, like you said, 3 years now. So is it a bandwagon thing? No, it's not a bandwagon thing. Michigan was ass and so was Texas. So the idea that like it's a bandwagon thing is laughable. And again, it just shows you how passionate you are about Texas because you're obnoxious about them again.
Yeah, and some people anticipated like, oh well, Steve Sarkisian was going there. You knew they were going to be good. I counter that with two things. One, I even had a shout out Ross. If you're listening to the pod, you had mentioned that you thought I was giving up completely on college football, and there was kind of thoughts on that because I didn't feel anything for Michigan. If they were losing, it's off in the third quarter. Saturdays didn't mean nothing, and I switched to Texas and I watched that first year and I found out who Sarkisian was. I didn't know he had coached at Washington, coached with Saban. I didn't know he had almost died at Alabama, but found out about the heart surgery. And looking back at all the research, it didn't matter what new coaches there, including Sark. A lot of people thought it wasn't going to work after 5-7 and then 8-4. It was like Sark wasn't going to work. And then it blew up in the 10-2 season. Michigan wins the national championship. But yes, it was basketball under Rodney Terry. It was football underneath Steve Sarkisian. And Dallas, Luka Doncic, and Texas. I've only left the time zone one time, and it was go to Texas. I plan to be back for the 2027 Michigan-Texas game. I don't know, Texas, if Casey and I were ever to move states, I think we've both locked in it would be Texas. I think we're both kind of growing this fond, weird relationship with it. And the whole bandwagon thing, you do what you got to do. But God, I'm fired up about this year, boy.
As you should be. Happy for you. I'm sad and disappointed it came at Michigan's expense, but happy for you.
I still hope they hit my over 8.5 ticket.
Was that what it was?
Michigan?
Oh.
Yeah, Michigan. Sorry, Michigan.
Let's say Texas 8.5. Holy shit.
No, they were 10.5. They were 10.5.
All right. We went 15 minutes on Michigan, Texas. Plenty good. We got a whole NFL slate ahead of us.
Yeah.
Are we ready?
Yeah, let's just dive in. Take it away.
Let's go. Let's start off with kickoff. We got an absolute banger. Kansas City trying to three-peat here. They opened the season up with the Ravens coming to town with the King, Derrick Henry, new-look Ravens. Take it away.
Yeah, I think everybody's going to have these teams in their top 6 before the season starts. I think these teams, with how good they are, the Chiefs back-to-back Super Bowl champions. But I think what made this game great is these teams treated it as if it was the last game of the season. I thought each team went out and they used play calling. There was reverses, Lamar running the ball 15 plus times, trying to get Derrick Henry involved. There's a miscommunication with Zay Flowers on a wide open guy in the back of the end zone, and then the big toe. I mean, shave the shoes down, Isaiah. And but you're talking that close. They always say football is a game of inches. We got a banger from beginning to end, and it ended this, game of inches. Tough day for the bettors on Ravens side because Harbaugh was going to go for 2, so somebody's winning that regardless. But yeah, what a tremendous performance. The Chiefs are so good. You can't. Sometimes there's a couple teams. You look at maybe the Jaguars, the Ravens, the Rams, the Packers. These are teams that are going to be 0-1, but lost to really good teams in very close fashion. So, I just thought it was a great game. All the standalone games were amazing, and this one started out with a bang.
Yeah, I thought a couple of things that stood out to me for this game specifically. I don't care about the rushing totals for Derrick Henry. It'll work. It'll take a little bit. He's notoriously bad in September, especially opening games, because he never plays preseason ball. So it's going to take a minute. I thought Lamar ran the ball like I've never seen him run the ball before. Literally bulldozing linebackers and not going down. You could tell he wanted that game so bad. But the thing that was just glaring to me, Kansas City refound an explosive offense in one off season. They obviously Patrick Mahomes drugged them to the Super Bowl last year, and with a less than impressive offense. And just like that, Mahomes, Pacheco, Kelsey, and then these crazy weapons, Rice, Hollywood Brown, who did not even play.
That's the scariest part.
That is the scariest part. I know. The speedster Worthy, who literally touches the ball 3 times and scores twice, including his first NFL touch. And I was talking to somebody about this at work. I don't know if it was work or the tailgate or wherever we were talking. It might have been Halbert at the game. When Worthy touches the ball and starts to go upfield, and there are closing players, and he speeds by them, that's next level speed. You don't find that speed lying around or training it. Like, that is next level stuff. The Chiefs are the best team in the league. Spoiler on my number 1 in the power rankings. They're going to be a tough out, and they'll have a game or two like they always do where they just kind of mess it up. But good luck. They're a lot.
Yeah, just the point on Worthy, it's going to the Texas team. I think one of the best things for Quinn Ewers and Isaiah Bond was his time with Xavier Worthy. Everyone remembers the ball that left the TV screen, rained down against Bama that Xavier Worthy caught. And I was on here saying it's like he was a number 1 receiver with all that speed. It's not like he's just a gadget guy. And unfortunately, the Kansas City Chiefs are with Rice, Brown when he comes back, Kelsey, they can use him in certain moments. And when a team's tired and you're getting to that 40, 35, going in not quite the red zone, and then you just slide him in after a 7-play drive, and now you got 4-2-1 running around. The Chiefs are a problem. And I'd argue the Ravens played just one of their best games. And it ended up being enough because that's what happens. Because you can talk about everything else. We talked about the weapons. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. It's just they've been so good. They've been so good.
I do think this will be reflected in my rankings. The Ravens are one of the best teams in football. And I don't know who they play next. I feel sorry for them. It's going to be bad. I don't even know who it is. I pick them to win.
The Ravens are at home at 1:00 versus the Raiders.
Yeah, that's a really tough spot for the Raiders. They're going to get absolutely boat raced. 3 scores. Don't even know what the spread is. If it's not 10, I'm shocked.
I'm assuming it's going to be under 10, but if it was in my, I would imagine it'd be something like 8.5. I'll pull it up eventually.
I'm going to go 9.5. Are you looking it up?
I'll get it eventually, but we can keep going if you want.
Next game, another fantastic game against, obviously the other one was the AFC Championship game. This one wasn't the NFC title game, but it was an excellent playoff game last year. It's Lions and Rams. Couple of takeaways on this one. Kind of a random topic, but really disappointed that Blake Corum got 0 touches in this game. Could not believe that, and wasn't really sure why. It sucked that Puka Nacua went out. I lost a pretty nice bet on this game, which is really disappointing. I had a 7-leg parlay going into this game. 6 of them had hit. I had 1 more to go, and I have Rams plus 3.5. I let it ride. I could have cashed out for $100 on a $5 bet for a payout of $215, and I didn't let it go. I let it ride, and tough. Whatever, is what it is. That's betting. But Lions are really good. They didn't even play their best game, which was the most impressive thing. They did everything in their power to lose this game, and I thought Stafford played incredible, and they still won. Shows you how good the Lions are.
Yeah, the Lions, I mean, when you think about it, if I was to tell you that Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Sam Laporta would combine for less than 60 yards receiving,
insane.
You'd say that's going to be a tough get. But Jamison Williams explodes 5 for 121. Hello, option number 40 billion for the Lions on offense. They have the best offensive line, a dual-headed running back, a quarterback who can throw the ball. He's just not your athlete, but he can throw the ball from the pocket. Amon-Ra, now Williams, and Sam Laporta. This team, I think, got away from their identity a bit. They started going up on the Rams. They got up to 17-3, and I think they were just kind of feeling the ebbs and flows. And then Matt Stafford put the whole team on his back and started dealing. And then shout out Jared Goff, wins the coin toss in overtime. And Dan Campbell looked at the boys and said, lean on them. We're just going to lean on them. It's been a long day. Their D-line's tired. Their defense is young. And what was it, 9 plays, 8 of them were runs. David Montgomery, just a full serving of him right down the field for a touchdown. So with the Rams, I'm worried about them a little bit going forward without Nacua, although we all understand Rodgers to Adams, Dak to CD, Big Ben to AB, Matt Stafford to Cooper Kupp has been nothing short of unstoppable. So I do see Kyren Williams with 18 carries being down 17-3. Maybe they don't get to run as much, but Ronnie Rivers, Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua got carries. I think Blake Corum should maybe start to get some carries, especially playing in Detroit. Maybe they would have thought to get him a carry or two. Who knows? I'm sure Sean McVay doesn't give a shit about that.
I'm not talking sentimental carries. I thought Blake Corum was supposed to be utilized in this offense. That's the vibes I was getting, and that just wasn't the case.
Real quick, I'm not even sure, and forgive me, is Ronnie Rivers a running back for the Rams? Or is he a receiver?
I believe he's a running back.
Okay. Well, he had 2 carries. I saw
later in the game.
I saw Kupp and Nacua had carries and they're receivers, so I was like, why aren't they going to Blake? But running backs in total only had 20 carries for the Rams on the game.
Yeah.
I just think they got too far away from the lead and just had to air the ball out. Stafford even threw a pick in the red zone, which I believe the Rams had 0 red zone interceptions all of last season. They have 1 in 1 game. But, yeah, the Lions, again, they reaffirm in the locker room. I think the Rams will walk away with this loss saying, hey, we didn't play our best ball. Puka got hurt. We let one slip. We're going to go back, figure this out. But the Lions needed to win like that because it reaffirms what Dan Campbell tells the whole team. Number 1, we're not the same Lions. And number 2, when we want to get gritty, when we want to get mean and we need to finish these games, that's what we do. And I think both teams will come away mentally with a victory here. It's a long season for the Rams. Lions get a big win, especially when you consider 3 of the 4 teams in their division got a W.
Anything else on that game?
No.
We didn't talk about this last week. I'm not sure how this flipped out when we did our final preseason predictions. My Super Bowl pick is Rams-Bengals. I still feel good about that. Obviously, hoping Nacua gets back. I did hate to see that they didn't really replace Aaron Donald up front, but they did get a pass rush from the defensive end out of Florida State. Help me out. Jared Verse.
For the Rams?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jared Verse was Florida State, their first edge rusher. Second round, they got Braden Fisk, the guy next to him.
Yeah, so they do have a pass rush, but they just were not able to stop the run, and that will suck. But that's it for that game.
Real quick, just to piggyback off that, mine was Eagles over Ravens. Ravens took an L to the Chiefs. That's going to have to change if they want to get in there. Eagles, well, I'm sure we'll talk about them later. But going forward, the Ravens against the Raiders, it is 9.5 is the spread. So it's under 10 if you want to stay under that.
I said that. I was like, it's probably at least 9.5. Okay.
Yeah.
I like the over there. Let's just go into that. We'll skip this game and we'll go into Eagles Packers, which was on Friday night in Brazil. The NFL, they want to talk about player safety, and then they make these players play on there's no other way to say it, just a shit show of a field. That's
it
really
might as well
what
have been running on concrete with cleats.
Yeah, just terrible. And then of course the game ends with one of the top quarterbacks in this league, and a franchise guy gets a leg injury. I mean, that's where we're at, and I hate to see it, but I don't know what else there is to say about this game other than Saquon Barkley to the Eagles was an absolute home run grand slam pickup, and what an absolute dog. Take it away.
Yeah, I think both these teams there was a lot of similarities. I think one, field was slippery. Two, not a lot of these guys played in the preseason, so there was a lot of feeling out. First quarter slow, second, third quarter, a lot of points. Both quarterbacks turned the ball over. Both quarterbacks had pick sixes dropped. Both teams had 65-plus yard touchdowns. Guys slipping in the secondary, loose balls. I think there was 19 penalty flags that were accepted. I mean, it was just a very ugly game. It was kind of just Brazil, man. First game of the year, rust, flags, big plays, drops, turnovers. And
Great
in
game,
the end, huh?
Great game. Great
yeah,
game.
from the neutral, it got really fun. I hit a bet on this game that Barkley and Jacobs to combine for 150 rushing yards. And at halftime, they were like under 65. And then they exploded in the second half. It's like the running backs really started to get involved in the ground. In the end, the Eagles were able to do enough. I think that when you talk about any team in the league in terms of O-line and weapons, the Eagles are up there with anybody. A.J. Brown showed up. Saquon Barkley had a game. Devontae Smith had 7 catches for 84 yards, but I think 3 of them were on third downs where they knew they were going to him. He won his route on a short route and was able to secure the first down. Jalen Hurts has to be a little bit smarter with the football, but I think the sky's the limit for this team. Speedy recovery to Jordan Love, 17 for 34. Hurts was 20 for 34. So, again, there's a lot of similarities between these teams. Eagles win by 5. It was a great game from the neutral. I think both these teams can get better, but again, I'm really hoping that Jordan Love isn't out. I'm hearing 3-6. I'm then hearing 2-4. Now I'm hearing 1-3. He's playing this week. Probably not. I think he'll be back before October, personally.
It's got to hurt their playoff chances, though.
Yeah, I mean, Malik Willis is dog shit.
Yeah, if you remember, I mean,
Bad.
I don't remember where you officially came in on the Packers. I know you were higher than me. I said they were going to miss the playoffs.
Sorry. When we were just talking about the Packers, I was really high on them. We did their schedule, and I was like 9-8.
Yeah.
Like, I got them 9-8. Like, it was something where I was like, I might have to reevaluate what I think the Packers are because this schedule and how it all shook out.
It looks worse now.
Yeah.
I mean, what are they going to do? Just run Jacobs?
Into the ground.
The thing is like, and I've never been a huge Josh Jacobs fan. I think he's one of the more overrated players in the league. But I do think that I didn't realize Green Bay has such good receivers. They got dudes.
10-7, by the way, for the Packers, not 9-8. I mean 10-7.
I think I had them.
Wild card team, but
yeah, they got some dudes, man. They got good receivers.
Yeah,
and it's not going to help because Malik can't throw it to him. How did you feel about as far as the Eagles go in your Super Bowl pick? You feel good? You feel worse? You feel better? Same?
I feel great. And the reason why is there were some untimely flags, but they got after the pass rusher. I thought Quinyon Mitchell, the rookie out of UT, had a great game opposite of
Yeah.
Slay. I think when it comes to CGJ, Cooper DeJean, and that Rodney Blankenship, I think his first name is, I think they're so versatile. Zach Bond, Vic Fangio really wanted him. They moved him to middle linebacker. He had 13 tackles and 2 sacks. He was absolutely everywhere. Nakobe Dean from Georgia, the pec issue, figured it out. He dropped an interception, but he was tackling everywhere. Jalen Carter, it looks like they're trying to rope a wild animal sometimes in the middle of that line trying to stop him. I mean, they got hands under his neck. He's just a game wrecker. I think this defense is going to gel, and they're going to give mediocre and bad offenses real problems. Great offenses, I think, are still going to have success in the league where they find it. But again, if Jalen Hurts takes care of the ball, Saquon Barkley's a nightmare. Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, the O-line. They've got a little bit to clean up, but I feel really good about the Eagles.
Cowboys, Browns. Cowboys, this was one of my favorite bets of the weekend, was the Cowboys plus the points. They absolutely throttled the Browns. And the Browns really just – everyone's going to point the blame on Deshaun Watson. I understand why, but, like, the offensive line didn't do him any favors. Dallas's defense was crazy. This is why I've argued with you about Dallas, and I argue with everybody about Dallas, and this is why I argue for Dak Prescott. Listen, say what you want about the Cowboys. Say what you want about what they do with their roster and how they don't bring anybody back and they don't spend a free agency. They have a top 10 quarterback in football. They have a good coach, a great defense. Like, that's what's getting it done. Oh, and an elite wide receiver, top 3 or 4 in the league. Like, they're getting things done. And on a day where Dak signs the biggest deal in the history of the league for annual pay, I could have seen where they played bad. No, played great. Dak had a ball to Brandon Cooks that I thought was fantastic. The defense was just outrageously good. Obviously, they had the punt return touchdown. They just played complete team ball. And, you know, obviously Mike McCarthy gets a lot of slack. He hasn't been in the NFC title game. He's won playoff games. I mean, I'm not trying to sit here and defend the Cowboys for the whole pod, but
Yeah, I got you.
I do think that this is a good football team, and I'll continue to think they're a good football team, and that's why I think they're winning the NFC East.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You have an offensive head coach who's been there and done that. I agree with the quarterback. A lot of times you'll hear us on the pod argue, I'll still take Tua over Dak. He'll take Dak over Tua. But we can agree they're both top 10 quarterbacks in the league. Put them where you want it. Offensive head coach. The defense is so athletic and fast. I think there was a stat like 2 years ago, which most of these players are still there, where it was like 9 of the 11 defenders were clocked at 19 plus miles per hour at some point during the season. They're so fast and electric. And like you said, CeeDee Lamb's a dog. And something I want to point out is we may have clocked him in as wash simply because he wasn't the greatest back in the league potentially. But Ezekiel Elliott still does what he just 3rd and 3, you got it, coach. You need me to block that linebacker in the A gap? You got it, coach. Is he going to break off the 50-yard touchdown run, hurdle a guy's stiff arm, eat the cereal in the end zone? No, but like situationally, I mean, he led their team in carries, and I see why they're doing that. And I think sometimes, and I'm not going to lie, I'm probably a victim of it. You let their how bad they've been in like the first rounds of the playoffs, it sometimes can cloud you that, I mean, they're 45 and 15 in the last 3 years in the regular season, or 36 and 15 in the last 3 years of the regular season. Like, they're going to win 2-3 out of every 4 games. They're solid, and Dak just simply didn't try to do anything crazy. He just took what the defense gave him, and then Deshaun Watson, why is he ever throwing 45 times in a football game when you're a run-first offense? I don't know. That was just a catastrophe. The decline of the Browns is something we could talk about. Let's give it another week. I think we should celebrate the Cowboys and what they've done right. And in the regular season specifically, they've been one of the best. I think what is it in the last 3 years they have more regular season wins than the Chiefs.
Yeah,
It's like they're a really good football team.
one of my biggest stayaways of the weekend is the Browns Jaguars game. Two teams that are looking to rebound off of. Obviously, the Jags have an ugly loss because they allowed the Dolphins to come back from 2 scores, and the Browns just got manhandled for 3 hours. So both teams are wanting to prove something. I think the Browns are actually getting like 2.5 or 3 points in this game. I think it's a stay away. I just think both those teams have too much to prove, and there's not a whole lot to gain by betting that game this weekend.
Yeah, Browns are getting 3.5 currently on FanDuel.
Oh, 3.5. Wow.
So, well, you may not have been wrong, but early in the week, early lines, people may be trying to get Jaguars why it was at 3 or less. And now the line's moved to 3.5. So snooze you lose. Should have got that line this morning if you wanted to bet it, kind of thing.
Yeah. What do you have an opinion on Tom Brady calling the game? What did you think? Anything good, bad, and different?
Love my friends. I'm very happy for them. It was a wonderful day. I have no complaints. It was a great time. I had a wedding at 2:00 on Sunday. So if it wasn't the Steelers on my phone, I missed a lot of these games.
Gotcha. Okay.
I did not hear Tom Brady's call. We all went out to Lucky's later. I saw the first half of the Sunday night game at Lucky's. I didn't get to really dive into the whole football slate this weekend.
I see. Yeah, so obviously I'm driving back from Bengals Patriots, which we'll talk about that game in a minute. And I have my phone in the GPS location. I know how to get home from 75. It's 3 hours to 75 north. I have the phone and, basically streaming the Cowboys Browns, but I can't watch the game because I'm driving, so I can kind of hear it. I didn't see or hear anything that I thought was extremely crazy or good or bad, but I have seen a lot of negativity towards Brady's calling of the game over the weekend. I just didn't know if you had an opinion. I'll reserve my opinion for next week, I guess.
I think people just love to hate on Brady. That's all.
Oh, they do. They absolutely do. They absolutely do.
It's just to stay on that. It's like a lot of people, take shots at Tony Romo now. I know some people. Blows my mind. And I know one of you may be listening to this podcast. I'm not going to call out your name. Some people don't like Gus Johnson. There are a lot of people that come at me and they just can't wait to shred Chris Collinsworth. Love the Sunday Night Football cast. And I'll be the first one to say it. There's one TV in my house on Monday. It's on the main cast, Troy and Joe Buck. I don't watch the Manning cast. I think it's a little too awkward. You lose the game, the connection issues. I love the Manning brothers, but I'm listening to Joe and Troy. I like them on the call. Like, there's not too many commentators I don't like. I don't know why people nitpick so much. They have a job to do. It's to teach and just say what's happening in the game. I like most commentators. I'm sure Tom and Kevin Burkhardt did a great job.
We are very similar on this topic. I couldn't agree with you more. By the way, I absolutely love Gus Johnson and Joe Klatt. They are my absolute favorite call of any sport. I could listen to those two call game all day long.
That was the only downgrade at the tailgate is we couldn't hear Joe Klatt and Gus Johnson on the call.
That is a problem when you tailgate the game and you have the TV. It's hard to really get those two to come in. I agree. Yeah. That is a negative, especially if it's a big noon game. Let's do one more game before we talk about R2. Gotcha. And there's some side topic to this one. I'm sure people realize what's coming. The Miami Dolphins and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The story here is going to be what happened pregame. And I drive down to Cincinnati Sunday morning. Let me set the mood here. I drive down to Cincinnati, and I parked to go to the game. Ended up meeting some friends. Jeff Halbert, shout out his wife and his family as well. We went to a brunch prior to going in. We sit down, order drinks, order food. I'm like, I see an alert. Tyreek's in handcuffs. What's going on here? I briefly look like this is crazy. I go to the bathroom. I'm doing my business. The guy that walks in next to me, the first thing he says to me, he sees I'm a Patriot fan. He's a Bengals fan. Not, we're going to whoop your ass today. Not, hey, hope we have a good game. He literally goes, bro, did you see Tyreek got arrested? Why were you urinating? Okay. I'm like, yeah, crazy. What? I wonder what's going on there. He's like, yeah, not really sure. I guess it's a traffic violation. And it's like, I mean, obviously more has come out on this, but the initial rumor is that he was doing 100 miles an hour. I don't know if you've seen the latest report. That is false.
Yeah, I didn't think he was doing anything like that.
Yeah, he was doing 60 miles an hour, so he was speeding. But 60 mile an hour, we all do 60 mile an hour. Nothing crazy here, okay? Tyreek was pulled over for a traffic stop. Seems to be going all right. He then rolls up his window and proceeds to call Drew Rosenhaus, which is his
agent.
His agent, and not just his agent, the biggest agent in all of football. There is nobody close to Drew. And he rolls up his window. They get him to open his butterfly door, suicide door, whatever you want to call it. I think it's a butterfly door. And one of the cops rips him to the ground. Tyreek has his hand firmly on his phone, and he has Drew on the phone. And he's like, Drew, they're arresting me. They're arresting me. And he throws Tyreek on the ground pretty aggressively, puts his knee in his back, gets Tyreek in cuffs. At that moment, they do brush him off and lift him up. They set him on a curb, and then seemingly out of the blue, that same cop roughs him up again. And, like, obviously this seems to be political, and it's not political. It's just this fact. Tyreek broke the law by speeding, but I don't think that justifies roughing somebody up. But then as soon as he does roll the window up, it gets a little sketchy, because it's like, if I just broke the law and I'm now like trying to hide from the cop in my car, I'm going to be treated with more aggression than had I had 10-2, yes sir, no sir. Yeah,
also, I know it seems childish, but also no seatbelt. That's a law. Yeah,
correct. He was wearing no seatbelt as well. And it's like, I'm also not going to sit here and act like Tyreek's this great dude. I'm not. This has nothing to do with the color of anybody's skin. Tyreek Hill, it's notable. This is not fiction. This is not made up. You can look it up. He once tied up his pregnant girlfriend, okay? Tied her up with rope. He has there's audio of it, of him basically talking about how he's going to beat the shit out of his son, and then his son ends up in a cast. Take that for what you will. Though there's no video proof of him beating his son.
Right, yeah.
There's a lot of things with Tyreek that I don't love. And I absolutely despise that he's one of my son's role models. And all the kids in elementary school love Tyreek Hill. Why? Because he's the fastest freaking dude on this planet.
And he plays video games. He's a streamer. He's on
He's a likable athlete to the kids. And I get all that. But I'm not going to sit here and defend him. But I'm also not going to sit here and talk about how the cops did everything perfect. I think it's a shitty situation. I think everybody messed up in the entire thing. I'm going long here, but I'm going to turn it over to you, say everything you want to say. I just think, like, the way it all went down was wrong. It could have all been avoided on both parties. And it sucks that this is where we're at. But, Tyreek Hill actually made a comment. He goes, what if I wasn't Tyreek Hill? I could say the same thing about, like, if you weren't Tyreek Hill, maybe you wouldn't have got away with some of the things you got away with. Like, it goes both ways. So, I don't know. Is what it is. I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I mean, you're speeding, no seatbelt, then you roll up the window, you're not listening to the cops. I get bringing him out, getting in handcuffs. Now, the whole throwing him on the ground and stuff like that, again, he wasn't cited. He just had to be put in handcuffs. Now, I do think it's weird that Calais Campbell saw what was going on.
He was right outside the stadium.
I know. He saw what was going on, and he went over to check to see what was going on. He mentioned after the game, Calais Campbell also got put into handcuffs for coming over to see what's going on. Like, That seems a little bit crazy. So I thought what Teddy Bruschi said, you have to take some of these players, former players, and it's like, yo, we're trying to get into the stadium for a game. The cops should have some sort of, like, they have a list of the people. They know what's going on. They're all informed. It's like, if this is Tyreek Hill, hey, let's go over here and let's just go. Or, there's just supposed to be a safe place type of thing where I'm a player. All these people are doing all this stuff. I know you're trying to do your security. I'm just trying to get in the stadium. But at the same time, you can't break two rules, not cooperate with cops, and then expect it not to go quicker than it should. But yes, the cops definitely, Tyreek broke the law, had to answer to that, even if it's just a citation. But also the cops probably did a little bit too much. And like you said, both sides are in the wrong here. This could have went way smoother, way quicker. Unfortunately, well, fortunately, I guess too, but to what Mike McDaniel said, he said it fucks him up that, quite frankly, he doesn't really know what that feels like. I've never been in those types of situations. I've never been racially profiled. I've never been pulled over for speeding. I've never been in handcuffs. I've never had issues with the law. So from a personal perspective, I have nothing to add. I'm just saying that, like, we can't just sit here and be like, the cops are pieces of shit for this. And we can't sit here and be like, well, Tyreek Hill shouldn't have broke the law. You have to face the precautions. There's somewhere in the middle where this all could have went way smoother. And now both sides are looking a little weird. But he just got cited. He played in the game. He dropped a $150 and a tud, had a cool celebration, gave the Dolphins something to rally around. I mean, yeah, we can't just be throwing dudes to the ground when a seatbelt violation or something. Like,
that's the thing.
There's got to be a little bit more effort on communication before it gets physical to that extent.
I'm sorry, but, like, at no point either, if you just got done speeding and you don't have a seatbelt on and the cops are addressing you, you can't just roll up your window.
Yeah.
They're literally in front of you. You're asking for trouble. Like, what if you had a gun? They don't know. They don't know, and your windows are heavily tinted. And that's the thing, is, like, I've never been racially profiled either. But guess what else I've never done? Drove 60 down a 40 with no seatbelt in a Lamborghini in Miami. Ever in my entire life. I've never done that. Scout's honor. And I can't say that had I done that and rolled up the window that it wouldn't have ended similar.
I couldn't help but laugh when it was Tyreek. I told when they were talking to Drew Rosenhaus inside the stadium, he's like, and Tyreek was telling him he wanted to be a police officer one day. I was like, oh, come on, Tyreek. Jesus, come on. You're just trying to say anything to get out of here, which means you did something wrong. It's like, Hey, why are you speeding without a seatbelt? I got to call my agent. Like, just roll up the window and call your, like, you didn't need a lawyer for that. Just talk to the cops. They'll be like, hey, we can't be doing this. Move this way. Get into the stadium.
And that's where, like, I'm sorry, but, like, Tyreek, you're an idiot. Your agent's not getting you out of this. You have to use your freaking voice. You have to talk to a cop.
It's like that cop may have went into it and he's like, it's Tyreek. Hey, man, you're going 60 and a 40. We're trying to keep everybody safe here. You don't have a seatbelt on. And then the window starts going up. Bro, what is going on here? Open the fucking door. Talk to me. You open up. He's on the phone with, the cop could say that's his agent. It's a lawyer. He doesn't really know. Why are you on the phone? Get out of here. Maybe Tyreek. Who knows what all happened. But for real, Calais Campbell. Hey, man, what's going on over here? Hands behind your back, bro. What? Why is Calais in cuffs?
Well, have you seen that video where his part's in it? He pulls the car over in the middle of the road, his car, with a teammate in it. And the teammate's hanging out the side of the car. He is completely out of the car. He's the driver. He's completely out of the car on the passenger side, basically screaming, they got Tyreek in cuffs. They got Tyreek in cuffs. And it's like, you can't just pull over on the side of the road and just, like, start attracting to yourself to a cop. I don't care who you are.
To some point, there is the element of, like, I'm a cop, I'm the law, and kind of how we put some of these athletes on a pedestal everywhere they go. They sometimes think they're like, yo, I should be getting special treatment. Like, I'm Calais Campbell, I'm Tyreek Hill, and at some point that water all gets muddied. But thank God nobody got hurt. Everybody got to play in the game. Cop's not going to lose his job. It's all like, hey, guys, let's make an effort to follow the rules. Let's make an effort to to try and be more civil. And they didn't rip up Tyreek's clothes. He wasn't bleeding from hitting the curb hard. He could have tripped coming out of Lambeau. I didn't see any of the footage, but we've spent enough time on this. Again, I don't have any personal information to add to it, but I think everybody can agree. Let's all just try and make everything a little bit more smooth. Everybody do what you can to come on.
Just love each other, man.
Fuck yeah, dude. Give me a kiss.
Gosh. Steelers beat Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
They kick 1 billion field goals, and TJ Watt wrecks the game. Atlanta, who I picked to win that division, looks pedestrian. Take it away.
Kirk Cousins, he doesn't look right. He just didn't look right in the way he was moving. Not reading the defense. I just thought the way they had him in pistol, he didn't really drop back. He didn't really try to avoid sacks. By the second quarter, every defender knew where Kirk was going to be the whole play, every play, no questions asked. So I wonder if where the Achilles is at in totality. I'm not saying get Penix ready. He's not going to be able to make it. I'm just saying Aaron Rodgers' Achilles was a different look than Kirk Cousins' Achilles in their first games. The Steelers, man, I understand that they were one of 3 teams to not have an offensive touchdown. However, they drove consistently and got field goals. We had a failed 4th and 1 at the Falcons 6-yard line. On a different day, I do believe there's touchdowns. If we're being honest, I don't like that every other receiver outside of Pickens combined for 2 catches for 8 yards. We may need to look for a second receiver via trade, however we can. But it does go to show that if you punt the ball, and I love that Fields used his legs to just extend drives. It wasn't like a spectacular play, but it was 3rd and 3, bootleg, get 6 yards. And by extending drives and punting, it's what every Steelers fan said. If we extend drives and punt, go 70-plus yards on this Steelers defense when they're rested. Good luck. We talked about Joey Porter and Minkah Fitzpatrick in the secondary. Deshaun Elliott and Dante Jackson had the interceptions. Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, they were flying around at the linebacker spot. TJ Watt, man, swallow the whistle. He should have had 13 sacks, 18 forced fumbles, and a touchdown. But, yeah, he had a strip sack, another sack, both called back for flags. The one that he had a strip sack called back for offsides, ref apologized to him in the tunnel at halftime, said he screwed up. Come on, can't be having it. But, yeah, the defense looked good. Falcons got a lot of new. I'm not totally out on them, but Kirk Cousins primetime against Philly in Philly on Monday night. Falcons might just be starting 0-2. And the Steelers, yeah, it looks like we're going with Justin Fields again. Sure, do I want more touchdowns? But when we didn't score touchdowns with Matt Canada, it was in a 6-22 loss. When we don't with Arthur Smith, there is no turnovers by the quarterback, 220 all-purpose yards. George Pickens get involved. The running game's going. We had extended drives. Was it always pretty? No, but the Steelers have always been a team that wants to take you to the deep end and just see who can stay above water. And that's the kind of games that the Steelers are comfortable in that not a lot of teams are. They start to panic. That's where we live. So does it need to get better? Yes. Do we need to improve? Yes. But I'd rather hear that we need to do that and be 1-0 than 0-1. So I can't say I'm disappointed at all.
I'm going to talk about Kirk when we get to the mailbag. I did glance over a question. I'll save it for that.
Okay.
Hopefully you can answer this. Was Russell Wilson active or inactive?
He was 100% inactive, but still being Russ wore full shoulder pads and uniform.
Okay. I talked to another Steelers fan, shout out Dave Hazelton. He was under the impression he was active, but only if needed.
I believe Adam Schefter pregame listed him as inactive, and I think Kyle Allen was the backup.
And he still came out in literal shoulder pads in a jersey.
I mean, that's dangerous football. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't have a ton of other comments. Good win, by the way, inside Atlanta with that team, with that hype. Good win.
Hey, if you can, maybe you don't care. You guys aren't Steelers fans, but just you're on your phone scrolling. Why don't you go ahead and type in crowd in Atlanta on Sunday? That was a Pittsburgh Steelers home game. That was a Pittsburgh Steelers home game, and it quite frankly wasn't close. I'd say 70% Steelers fans in that building.
That's wild.
I believe TJ Watt said, "Thank you, Steeler Nation." It's no surprise to us. I believe he said the Falcons were on a silent count in the second half. It was a Steelers home game in Atlanta. They showed out.
It's crazy. New England and Cincinnati. So I already kind of told you guys to start this pod off. What kind of a great weekend I had. Woke up the sun. We drove down to Cincinnati bright and early. Met Jeff and his wife Jamie and their family, and we rolled up 7 deep. 3 Bengals fans, 4 Patriot fans. Told my son he can get any jersey he wants. He already has a black Chase jersey. He rather than getting Burrow or anybody like that, he wanted another
Orange Chase.
Jersey. He bought a white one.
Okay,
white. Got the white one. That was what he wanted. That's what I let him get. The game was fantastic. Thank God Chase played. I was disappointed to hear that he was not potentially going to. That's my son's favorite player. But it was weird because obviously I want New England to win so bad, especially with me being in person. And, I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to not cheer just because my son's right there. You know what I mean? So from start to finish, New England dominated this football game. Absolutely dominated this football game. And I understand the score is 16-10. I'm totally aware of that. It was never not in their control. Never. The craziest thing is like any good play Cincinnati had ended in poor decisions, fumbling, maybe it was a penalty, whatever it was. New England was just they outcoached Cincinnati. They outplayed Cincinnati. And what everybody said was New England's weakness, including me. The offensive line dominated the defensive line of Cincinnati. And Ramondre Stevenson, by the way, he earned that contract already and it's been 1 game. He was fantastic. Jacoby Brissett was great on 3rd down, and that was the difference. Bengals have had a lot of storylines this offseason, and I didn't expect them to come out and play great. That's why I was pretty confident New England could at least cover the massive spread for week 1, and they won outright. So, weirdly enough, week 2, Seattle comes to New England. 1:00 game. That game's awfully winnable. All of a sudden, 2-8 ain't crazy.
I'll tell you what, one of those jaw-dropping picks where you're like, who the hell is that? 2nd round? Who is Kyle Duggar? Everybody knows now. He has been a stud since he's walked into the league, man. He's been one of the top 10 safeties in the NFL. You could argue even better. I'm just ballparking it there. But Kyle Duggar, is he the one that forced the fumble too on the way into the end zone? He's just been an absolute maniac.
That was literally a touchdown. Burrow hits a guy on a slant.
Yeah.
It's a walk-in touchdown, and Duggar hits him with a peanut punch, and that ball's out. He didn't give up on the play. And if he would have, nobody would have blamed him because it was a walk-in touchdown. But he peanut punches it, and Marcus Jones picks it up. It's just Kyle's a dog. Kyle is an absolute dog. Peppers is a dog. Christian Gonzalez, by the way, owns Ja'Marr Chase. Okay, literally owns him. Okay, you can call him daddy for the rest of his eternity. Christian Gonzalez is freaking him. And this defense is a problem. The offense,
was it Keon White?
2.5 sacks.
Yeah, I just forgot his name for a minute, but he's been good.
No, he was fantastic. The very first play of the game was a sack on Joe Burrow from Keon White.
Christian Gonzalez, Jabril Peppers, Kyle Duggar. You start to analyze what this team can be defensively. Now, same thing with the Steelers. 16 and 18 points isn't always going to be enough to win games, but the last few years they've had to win the same way, and that's just will win ugly.
Yeah.
That's
we
what
don't
gets
have
you
our
6
quarterback
rings.
starting
That's
yet.
the difference.
Yeah, we don't have our quarterback starting yet. And to be honest, the more we win, the later it probably takes. But I do believe that this team's going to win some games they weren't supposed to. I told you that to begin with.
Yeah.
And lose games maybe they are supposed to because they're not great talented offensively.
Somebody listening from the neutral may argue that that's impossible because no one expects them to ever win. So how can they lose games they shouldn't? But I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Anything else on those 7 games we ran down?
Nope.
MVP after week 1.
If the voting was just on 1 week,
we always do this. It's after just 1 week.
Well, I know, but you're saying the MVP. It's been 1 week. You should be put in handcuffs if you don't say Josh Allen after what he did. He backpacked their team, 2 touchdowns through the air, 2 touchdowns on the ground. You mentioned Cardinals are winning week 1, and I said I'm growing to the idea. And all offseason, for me specifically, what I said is I said this team is not very good. But when they win, Josh Allen is just going to have to do it himself. But he is capable of doing it all himself. He is one hell of a football player, and he put everybody in the sled, threw the rope over his shoulder, and carried him up the mountain. It was against the Cardinals. So a lot of people are like, if that's what they're going to be to beat the Cardinals, we'll see how they go forward. I'm not saying the Bills are the best team on earth, but it's got to be Josh Allen for me.
Probably can't see it. Josh Allen.
Yeah, I assumed, yeah.
So, first off, I've never nailed a prediction right. No, I've never nailed a prediction so right and so confidently in my entire life and have it still be right even after they lost.
They were 6.5 point dogs, weren't they?
Yes. Josh Allen ruined my prediction, not the Bills. The Bills did not ruin my prediction. Josh Allen did. The Cardinals played such a great game. It went down very similar to how I thought it would go down. I just didn't think Josh Allen would be able to Superman him, but I was incorrect.
5 incompletions, 18 completions, 232 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 9 carries, 39 yards, 2 touchdowns.
It was fantastic.
So good.
Yeah, Josh
had to get an x-ray on his left hand. I'm sure he'll be back out there with a boxing glove on it. But absolute man amongst boys.
Power rankings all at once?
Sure.
Or you then me? We can do them simultaneous. I think we've done this in the past. It's worked out.
Okay, that's fine.
I think we both have number 1 as the Chiefs. Am I right or wrong?
We have the Chiefs. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Self-explanatory.
Brad, who is your number 2, and is it Detroit?
No, I went with the 49ers.
That's fair. You have Detroit 3rd?
No.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So 49ers 2nd. Who's your 4th? Or sorry, who's your 3rd?
So real quick, what I just want to say is the Chiefs and 49ers made the Super Bowl. Chiefs beat a great opponent in the Ravens, and the 49ers just looked Yeah, and the 49ers just look so good. Their opponent's not the same caliber. This next tier of like 4 or 5 teams, I think are all tremendous teams. So I just have them in a little different order. I personally have the Eagles at number 3. A neutral site game. They were playing the Packers, who with Jordan Love, I'm pretty high on as well. I have the Lions at 4. So I thought that the Packers and Rams are pretty similar in my projections for the season, and the Eagles and Lions are pretty similar in my projections for the season. The Lions had a home game and almost blew a 2-touchdown lead. The Eagles had a hard-fought game that they won on neutral site in Brazil, in the other hemisphere. So I gave the Eagles the nod over the Lions, but I have Chiefs, Niners, Eagles, Lions as my first 4.
I have Chiefs, Lions, 49ers, and my 14 is the Cowboys.
Okay.
So there's our top 4. Who is your 5?
My 5 is the Houston Texans.
Interesting. Okay.
On the road against the Colts. I thought that was a great game, and I like the Texans roster more, but the Cowboys are my 6. Cowboys put a beat down on the Browns.
You're probably not going to agree, and I am curious of where they fall because I don't feel like they can't be in your top. My fifth team was the Ravens.
Okay.
Who they played, where they played, how they played.
Yeah.
They're beating all but three of these teams week one. I thought it was tough for me to drop them farther. I was really trying to figure out where they could be placed. I'm like, okay, I settled at 5, but I understand your Texans there. For me, 6 was Eagles, who you've already said. Okay. Who's your 6?
My 6 was Cowboys.
Cowboys. Okay. So we are similar through 6. For me, 7, another loser. The Rams. I only had 2 losers in my top. I actually did a top 12. And I have Rams at 7. Who do you have 7?
That's where I had the Ravens. So when I have Ravens, like the Ravens, Cowboys, Texans, Lions, Eagles, like all those teams, I'll actually put the Eagles in there with the Niners and Chiefs because I just think so highly of them. So the Lions, Texans, Cowboys, Ravens. Obviously, it's only 1 week. I'm not out on these teams. Ravens are tremendous. I just wanted to put, when I thought in my mind tiers, I wanted to put the team with a loss at the bottom of it. That doesn't mean I don't think they could beat any of the teams above them.
Yeah. My number 8 is the Bills.
Okay.
Who's your 8?
I have the Dolphins at 8. I think the Jaguars are a solid team. They won a hard-fought game. Some turmoil before the game. That offense.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. The Dolphins, and I understand things that happened pre-game, and I understand their opponent. They were at home, and I thought they were really lackluster. Obviously, they came on late, and great for them. I just thought some teams looked better, the Bills included. I do have the Texans at 9. Who is your 9?
My 9 is the Los Angeles Chargers.
Chargers. Okay.
With Justin Herbert, if he doesn't score 24 points, he's like 6-28 in his career. They scored 22 and won comfortably because coaching matters, and Jim Harbaugh walked into this league and was a top 5 coach in it. The team just looks so in control in offense, offensive line, running game, Herbert when he needed to. And for having a quote-unquote defensive head coach the last 3 years, their defense looked better than they ever have under Brandon Staley. I know it's just the Raiders, but the Raiders put up points on the Chargers the last few years, and it just looks so comfortable, calm, collected, calculated. They just look like a true outfit. I like the Chargers at 9.
Briefly, I just want to talk about the Chargers here. That we haven't talked about them at all this pod. It's got to be nice for Justin Herbert to know that his coach isn't going to lose him a football game. A.
Oh, yeah.
B. Jesse Menner is a fantastic defensive coordinator, and it showed game 1. Literally game 1. I know, not trying to say the Raiders are anything special on offense, but they do have an elite two really good wide receivers, really.
2 good tight ends that are young.
Yeah, and a gunslinger at quarterback, and it just didn't matter. It just did not matter.
No.
And I've seen a lot of behind the scenes clips. I've seen the locker room stuff. Jim Harbaugh is just world class, and I just think he's a home run fit for this Chargers team. It's going to show all season long.
Everywhere he's gone, he's gone, he's just been a dog.
The Chargers did not make my list, and it was a tough leave off. And this team, I would never have guessed would have made my list, but the way they looked was so dominant. I got the Bucs at 10.
I have the Bucs at 10 as well, too.
Do you?
I do.
Okay. So you did not find a spot. Do you have an 11 and 12 or no?
I do have an 11 and 12.
Who do you have?
My 11 is the Rams.
Okay.
I feel like they are a more complete team than my 12 team, which is the Bills. The Bills won. But again, I think the Cardinals are a pretty poor team. I don't believe in the Cardinals. I've been lower on them. I think I have them at 5-6 win team. And it took Josh Allen dragging the whole team to get a win in Buffalo. I don't believe in that method going forward. And for the Rams, the reason why even a great loss versus the Lions on the road that they slipped just outside the top 10 is, man, they're not going to have Puka Nacua for the next month, and it's kind of a rotating list. I believe all these teams are good. So it's not, again, it's a fluctuating list, but from 12 to 1, Bills, Rams, Bucks, Chargers, Dolphins, Ravens, Cowboys, Texans, Lions, Eagles, Niners, Chiefs.
My last two, I have the Dolphins at 11, and I have the Steelers at 12. So really, the only difference from our list is Chargers Steelers. And the Chargers, they would have been 12. I left them off because I just thought the Steelers win was more impressive than the Chargers win. I will say this. So I have Steelers, Dolphins, Bucks, Texans, Bills, Rams, Eagles, Ravens, Cowboys, Niners, Lions, KC, Chiefs there. So we mostly agree. You're a little lower on the Rams. I thought the Rams looked great even without Puka. You're higher on the Texans than me too. I thought them struggling in Indy.
I think Indy, I don't know. They're such a difficult team for me to read.
That's kind of how I am with Arizona. And you're kind of shitting on Arizona. One of the reasons that I was so confident that Arizona would upset the Bills, two features. A, I thought Arizona updated their team enough that was sneaky. And I thought the Bills downgraded enough that it would take a superhero effort from Josh Allen, and wasn't expecting to see it week 1.
I didn't think I didn't think Kyler Murray would only have 54 passing yards in the second half. Like, what happened?
Well, Marvin only had 1 catch for 4 yards the whole game.
I know, but Kyler, what happened at halftime to where he came out and just couldn't do anything? Maybe the defense made adjustments. I don't know.
Yeah, I am excited for week 2. We're an hour and 13. We got mailbag, got a couple of things.
Quick question for you.
You good to go to make here?
Huh? Oh, yeah. My quick question was, you had the Steelers at 12, Chargers at 13.
Yeah, Chargers would have been 13.
So, do you think the Chargers are going to win at Carolina week 2? Chargers at Panthers.
Do I think the Chargers are winning at Carolina?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think the Steelers are going to win at Denver?
Why?
Do you think the Steelers will win at Denver week 2?
Yeah, I do.
So do I. The Steelers host the Chargers week 3.
Can't wait.
So that'll be a fun test to see who can win with their formula.
Fantastic game. That's
so if they both win, obviously, it's the Steelers home opener week 3.
Gotcha. Because I'm on my phone, I'm struggling here. Are you able to pull up the mailbag?
Yeah. Do I need to go to our 2 Fans 12 Rings page then?
There was one question on your Facebook and one on our page. I don't believe there was one on mine.
All right, I'll go to my page first. Yes, I do have one. It is from Dave Hazelton. Shout out. He said, Jeff, is Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers best years behind them?
So I saved the Kirk Cousins talk from your Steelers game for now because I've seen this question. First off, this is a volley, an underhand pitch. Yes, they are behind them because they're both 30-plus-year-old quarterbacks, 35-plus-year-old quarterbacks. I believe they're the 2 oldest players in the whole league, if I'm not mistaken. Aaron, coming off an Achilles, hadn't played in a long time. He literally played 4 snaps, and it took him almost 3 series to get to 5 snaps last night. So it is going to be a uphill battle for him. Kirk Cousins played half the year in losses towards Achilles. I do think that both of these teams are in unfamiliar territory. 4 plays is not enough to be in familiar territory. So, Aaron's in a brand new team. Kirk's in a brand new team. Both are playing elite defenses. I understand Kirk was at home, and I understand that Aaron Rodgers was on the road. But at the end of the day, I think both these guys are going to be 3,500 to 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, 10 picks. They're going to be good quarterbacks. I don't think they're elite quarterbacks anymore. I think those days are behind them. But neither of these teams are going to suck because of the quarterback, I don't think. There are going to be underlying issues. The Jets, there's going to be between offensive line and coaching issues. The Falcons are going to be, really, they're the Falcons. They still kind of lack a few weapons. They have a running back. Obviously, they have one wide receiver, a questionable tight end. We really don't know what to make of their head coach. He's failed in the league before. I'm not sold he's going to work now. Time will tell. But I'm fine with both those guys. But as far as the question, yeah, their glory days are behind them.
Yeah, we're lockstep. They're both good. How good, we'll see. But they're probably still going to be top half of the league quarterbacks. But best years, of course. They're 35-plus years old coming off Achilles injuries. Their best years are behind them. Yeah. And they both have defensive head coaches.
Correct. That matters today.
Yeah. Moving along, these seem to be a little bit more college football based. I'll go with Dan Nassar's first one. That's NFL as well. It's a little bit long, so bear with me. More and more brawls and fights keep happening to be uploaded on social media platforms that happen in NFL stadium concourses and seating areas. Does there need to be a more emphasis on fan safety is the question. Seemingly none exist unless you count alcohol sales cut off later in games if you label fights as alcohol-induced specifically. Many skirmishes happen to be a handful of minutes before any security personnel arrive. Many people think it's entertaining to watch on Twitter and such, but personally he finds himself disgusted and disturbed by it. So do you think there needs to be an uptick in security or protection amongst fights, or do you think this is something that security gets to when they get to, but inevitably drunk people or angry people are going to involve themselves in physical contact and keep your head on a swivel out in public?
So first off, are you aware that there were multiple, including one big brawl funny enough, the Chargers-Raiders game ended in a fight, but there were multiple fights in the stands, including a pretty large size one down by the field. Are you aware of this or no?
No.
Yeah. So the Chargers-Raiders game specifically had an actual fight on the field between, I believe, 5 to 6 different players.
I knew the on the field fight. I saw that scrum at the end. I didn't know about the stuff in the fans.
Yeah, there was reportedly 5 to 6 different fights in the actual stands as well, including the one that's pretty much gone viral on Twitter, where there's like 5 or 6 guys literally just throwing haymakers. One guy gets bloodied up real good on his face. They're obviously falling over the stands. I'm not joking you. This could be a coincidence. But I feel like all the fights that I've seen over the last couple of seasons have been at Charger games and Raider games. And the fact that those two teams played, I'm not trying to diss their fan bases. The LA, ever since they went to LA, it does seem that has become such a tourist stadium, as has the Raiders. And I feel like because of that, you're just seeing more fighting.
I feel like there's already enough security in the stadiums. They line the whole perimeter of the field. They're out walking around. But I do have something for this, and it's what soccer stadiums do. And I don't understand why the NFL or our stadiums don't do this. It kind of resembles a student section, but let's say whatever the capacity of your stadium is, let's put the number at 20%. I don't know if that's how it is in Europe. But let's just say 20%. So maybe at Gillette, it is on the visitor side, the second story, like the second tier deck all the way across. Or in this stadium, it is one corner of the stadium, not behind the end zone, but one corner that goes all the way up like a cone. Enough seats that when you sell them online, 80% of the stadium is home team tickets. You can still buy them if you're an away fan, if you'd like to sit there. And 20% of the tickets are away team tickets. So let's just say a color scheme. Let's say the black and yellow Steelers are playing the white and orange Bengals at Heinz Field, and we have a cone. in that cone where it's an away fans, it's pretty much going to be all white and orange Bengals fans. And every 2 steps, there is 2 security guards all the way up, separating the Bengals fans from the Steelers fans. And then everywhere else, there's a little bit less security because they're all cheering for the same team. And it is a good way to try and isolate the away fans. It also comes into contact when it's like, oh, that corner of the field, that's where I want our red zone to be at the end of the second and fourth quarter. So when the away team gets to choose a side, they're now choosing to attack or defend closer to where their crowd is. If they get touchdowns in that end zone, they can celebrate with their away fans. Instead of everyone just being mixed together in a free-for-all, you can try and isolate the fact that, like, if you're an away fan, you're going to try and buy tickets in the away fan zone to be with your team. And then also when there's chants going on, or let's say when the Cowboys destroy the Browns and their fans are leaving early, there's that one cone of all the Cowboys fans celebrating together. I think that is a good way you can limit some of this, is by selling your tickets in an area where every stadium creates a section for the away fans to buy primarily their tickets. That way you can try and separate some of the fans so it's not fights. But yes, in the away fans, they have 2 security guards on a step, and it's every other step. And they're wearing bright lime green. You can't miss them. They don't blend into anybody all the way up the steps to separate the fans from becoming, engaged with each other. But I do believe that is a step that can be taken, because most of the time when people are fighting, it's a fan from each team that gets engaged.
Not always, shockingly, but yes, most of the time it is.
I think that's also something that can make the environments more fun at games.
What else you got?
It looks like we're going over to college football. Dan Nassar again. What college team or teams that are 2-0 in college football should be worried? We go to
Penn
college
State.
football. We go to college football standings, all conferences.
Penn State comes to mind, obviously. Bowling Green Falcons, shout out. Took Penn State to the limit. That's one that comes to mind.
Boston.
That are 2-0, right?
You want to go by conference?
Did he say 2-0?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's 2 teams that come to mind just because I know they still have to play. Obviously, Penn State still has Ohio State coming. The other one's Tennessee.
I'm going to change the question quick. I'm going to go 2-0 teams. Wait, maybe he said that already. Oh, he said 2-0 period. We're going to do ranked teams that are 2-0 because, like, Michigan State, Indiana, they should probably be worried. Like, we'll go with
honest, I'm only thinking ranked teams off the head.
So with the Big Ten, you have Nebraska, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, USC.
Yeah, Oregon definitely needs to be worried because they have not played their best ball. And to be honest, if this is what they are, they're in some deep doo-doo. But the other team that comes to mind is Tennessee because they're wrecking teams. They've looked great. But I don't even put you in the top 3 in the SEC. Maybe not even the top 5 in the SEC. And even if you're top 5, I don't know what their schedule looks like. Georgia, Alabama, Texas, off the top of my head. I mean, that's tough outs.
Georgia ranked number 1, Texas ranked number 2, Bama ranked number 4, Ole Miss number 5, Missouri number 6, Tennessee number 7, Oklahoma number 15.
Yeah, I feel bad for Tennessee.
Oklahoma should be worried. They host Tennessee, at Auburn, host neutral site Texas. South Carolina's been pretty good. At Ole Miss, at Missouri, host Bama, at LSU. Oklahoma probably has the hardest schedule in the SEC.
Yeah. Anybody for you?
I don't know about worried. At 2-0, it's a more difficult question. I wish it was like 4-0 or 5-0 so that it was less teams. Because like Iowa State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Arizona, Utah, all 2-0 in the Big 12. It's like they're obviously not all going to stay that way. But I think when it could just bleed into another question by Zed McPherson, Is Oregon actually good? They've had 2 close games already against 2 unranked teams, Idaho and Boise State. Kind of bleeds into that. Everyone's worried about them. Not that we're like, oh man, I hope they can keep winning. We don't really give a shit if they win or lose. But at the end of the day, it's like if this is how their offensive line's going to play, they can't compete for a championship with this team.
Yeah.
And they may end up being, is Oregon and maybe like a Tennessee going to be the Big Ten and SEC team that are the first teams out of the playoff this year because they just couldn't hack it in the big thing. I look at Penn State. It was worrisome versus BG, especially at home. Coming off of a massive emotional win versus West Virginia, maybe it was a letdown spot. I'd like to monitor them more. But in terms of worried, USC has a tough schedule going forward. They got Michigan, they got Notre Dame. I think they play Oregon. There's a lot of just good games coming up. But I think you nailed it though. Oregon is the one I think most people are focused on with how they've looked.
As far as that question, first off, shout out Zed. I met him at a bachelor party a couple months back. Good dude. I'll see him actually at 2 weeks in a wedding. But thanks for listening. And as far as Oregon goes, yeah, no, they need to be worried. They absolutely need to be worried.
And
Idaho and Boise State are not the 2 teams I thought would take them to the brink. Boise State's not trash. I'm not trying to pretend they are. But I didn't think they'd take them to the brink.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then last question was Dan Nassar. He said Sydney Sweeney or Ana de Armas. I don't know who those 2 are. I've heard of Sydney Sweeney. Some of my friends on Discord say she has big boobs, but I don't know what she's been in films or whatnot. So
yeah, so I seen this question on there, and I seen that you responded, and I would have responded the exact same way. And then Dan put in our fantasy football group chat 2 pictures of these girls, and he's like, I don't know if it was you or Brad that responded. I'm like, it was Brad, but I don't know who these girls are either. And then he sent me the 2 pictures with the 2 names, but didn't put them next to the photo. I don't know who these girls are. They're both okay looking. Okay.
Are we doing it based off physical attraction or like their filmography, like the movies they've been in, like who's a better actress? Because Ana de Armas, I saw her in Knives Out. She was really good in Knives Out. I haven't seen Sydney Sweeney in anything. I see that she was also in Deepwater.
She was in Blade Runner. For like. I think Sydney Sweeney is famous. If I'm not mistaken, that name sounds familiar. I think there's like this butt cheek photo that everybody shows of her. I think that's really what it is. I don't know.
There's a hint at tism there for sure.
Anyways, back to football.
Just real quick, I'm looking at filmography and just photographs. ADA 1,000%. She's in better movies. She performs better. Yeah, ADA.
There you go.
All the way.
Any more mailbag?
No, that was the last one.
Thursday night football, Dolphins, Bills. Bills +2, I believe.
Oh, let me tell you what it is. Bills +2.5.
Yeah, I really like the Bills here. Plus the points. But I also think I like them outright. And because of the first game in which they struggled, I know they got the ball thrown on them a little bit. I think they'll battle back. I actually like them.
Again, it's going to be a night game, so I don't know. I know it's supposed to be hotter during the middle of the week than the weekend. It's going to be a warm one. The sun shouldn't be an issue, though, because it's Thursday night. Miami's 2.5-point favorites. I think they might win by 2.5 touchdowns. 37-20 Dolphins. I think the Dolphins put on an absolute show offensively against the Bills.
We could not disagree more. That's fun.
I think the Bills are going to score. I think the Dolphins are going to score. I like taking the Dolphins minus the points for sure. I am all over the Dolphins here. I think with Jordan Poyer in that secondary, Jalen Ramsey, the pass rush the Dolphins were able to get against the Jaguars at home, Hard Rock Cafe Stadium. I like the Dolphins. Maybe not by 2.5 touchdowns. I was obviously being a bit egregious. But divisional matchup, 30-24 Dolphins. I like the Dolphins to outpace the Bills. 30-24 is my final prediction, actually.
Interesting. All right, I just pulled up the bets that I like that I already bet for this weekend. Are you betting the Dolphins? Is that one of your 5 picks?
Like my Blazing 5 or something?
You got have you already locked in your bets for the week?
No, I have not.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with a couple, and if you hear some and you want to shout some out, go ahead. Okay. But I love the Bills +2. Okay. This is probably my favorite bet of the weekend. Chargers -6.5 over Carolina. Love that. Another bet that I absolutely am in love with. Teams that play the Niners typically lose the following week. Even though you lost 2 in a row, I thought the Titans played good enough to win. Obviously, Will Levis was bad at times. Titans +4, I really like. Okay.
It's down to 3.5.
4 on my board when I bet it.
No, I know. I just trying to update the people. That line is moving.
Okay. Pats +3 at home against Seattle. Seattle's got to come from west to 1 o'clock, obviously. West to east at 1 o'clock. Pats are at home after how they looked and what they could do. +3 feels like enough for me to take the Pats here. And then, not sure how this is a thing. I like the Rams outright on the money line. Swallowed the points. Whatever the points. I took them straight up on the money line over Arizona.
Yeah, they're underdogs versus the Carolina or the Arizona Cardinals.
They are.
I like that. I think I like the Eagles by a touchdown at home over the Falcons. They're -6.5. I like the Rams outright. If Malik Willis is playing, it's interesting. I don't know if I'd bet that game. Love the Chargers -6.5. Might be the play of the week there.
Yes.
I mean, against the Panthers.
Get it before it jumps up to 9.5.
San Fran's still under a touchdown. I know we like the weapons on the Vikings, but this is a different animal for Sam Darnold after playing against the Giants last week. I really like the Dolphins -2.5. I see them winning the game, and if I'm getting less than a field goal that I have to cover, sure. So yeah. I haven't bet any of that yet.
I think the Bills win.
I'm debating
on short week travel, and I like the Bills.
I haven't made up my mind on how much I'm betting this weekend because there's college football, there's NFL football, and there's UFC 306 in the Sphere. So I just haven't decided how much money I'm allotting to each sport before I start going in on it. But I'm probably going to hammer here shortly, right when we get off of here, Chargers -6.5.
To close, we'll hit a little UFC real quick. The last several main events that I've tuned in for have not gone how I thought they were going to go down. Is Sugar Sean winning this fight on Saturday night?
It's one of 2 fights I deem worth watching. Sugar Sean, if we're being honest, Sugar Sean is one of the most elite strikers in the game. He is 4 inches taller and has a 4-inch reach on Merab. But Merab has, you could argue, the greatest conditioning in all of UFC, and he wants to get in and take you down. Sugar Sean is all about avoiding the takedown and kind of sniping you throughout. We have seen that Sean's knocked some people out, but we've also seen a lot of people take some of his best shots. He's kind of a thinner guy. This is 135 pounds. I think if it goes the distance, it's going to be Sugar Sean based on damage. I don't think Merab will control him the whole fight. But if you're asking me who's going to win, I don't know. Sugar Sean's 18-1. Merab's 17-4. Both these guys are interesting personalities. Styles make fights, though. These guys don't want to stand with each other. These guys don't want to wrestle each other. They're each trying to do something else. Sometimes optically that can be an issue. I wouldn't mind seeing Merab take him down, though.
Cool stuff.
But the women's co-main event, Valentina Shevchenko, she's an absolute hound, 23-4-1, fighting Alexa Grasso, 16-3-1. These women are entertaining. It's not just like a random women's fight kind of lower in the prelims that sometimes don't disappoint. That'll be good. And the third fight I think is worth mentioning, Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez. They were supposed to fight a card or two ago. Brian Ortega dropped out due to injury. I forget the guy's name, but he took on Diego Lopez with 4 hours notice of the fight, and it went the distance, absolute bloodbath. But Diego Lopez is a monster, and I know we're going a little bit long on this. The first fight of the night, this kid Raul Rosas Jr. He's 9-1. He's like 19 years old. He's fighting a guy, Raul Rosas. He was the first person I think ever maybe to have a UFC contract at 18 years old. Kind of has like a smashed in nose. He has a distinct look. I feel like you'd recognize him if you saw him. But the very first fight of the night is going to be fun. And then I think it's the last 3. But everything in between, this is the first and only UFC fight he's ever going to do in the Sphere. Are you familiar with the Sphere in Las Vegas?
Mm.
And he's basically said, he's always said that Mexicans in Mexico have like the greatest fighting heritage in all cultures. It's what Dana believes. And from the first fight to the last fight, the Sphere is going to be a show about the evolution of the Mexican like fighters over time, even like even before the UFC. Just it's basically a giant honor, like a thank you to Mexican culture and heritage. So every single, I don't think every single fighter, but almost every fight has a Mexican fighter in it. And it is basically supposed to be like kind of like a movie story mixed with fights in between. I'm very curious to see how it all plays out. This is a one-off thing, so I just think it's, even if the card kind of looks like that's whatever, I just think it's something you don't want to miss. I think you want to be a part of it.
Cool. Well, football is 100% back, both college and NFL. Great week of games. Can't wait to talk week 2 and react to those games. We went an hour and 40 minutes here. Anything else, sir?
No, that's it, man.
Hope you guys appreciate what we're doing. We'll be back next week. Like, subscribe, tell friends, share. Hope all your teams win, unless you're the Seahawks this week. We out.